Hello, Asphalt Turkey audience. Welcome to our show, Interactive Talks, YouTube channel. Today's guest is from UK, United Kingdom. His name is Mr. Graham Sharp, my very old friend. And welcome, Graham. How are you?
I'm fine, Bashir. How are you?
All right. It's been a very long time that we haven't seen and we haven't talked to each other. Actually, we have talked, but we haven't seen each other for a while.
No, I'm trying to remember when we last. I think the last time we met was in Istanbul, and we were having a meal in a fish restaurant, and your motor cruiser pulled up at the restaurant, and we went for an evening sail down the Bosphorus. I think I can't remember when that was. It would have been, I don't know, 2008 or 9.
I think
2010.
Yeah, 2008 or 9. We were in the fish restaurant in Bebek. It used to be called Poseidon, and I remember very well. You were a little embarrassed. You said, "These crazy Turks, what are they doing now? They are going to knock down the restaurant." I remember.
Yeah, I wondered what was happening, and I think the other diners were getting a bit concerned, and I thought, Bashir, what's going on? And he said, "Come with me." And I remember we stood up and you went to the jetty at the restaurant, and I think all the diners thought we were important people.
You are important people. You are from UK and you are my host and you are my guest. Of course, you are important. Okay, so let's start with this. Why don't you introduce yourself a little bit so our audience can get to know more about Graham Sharp, what he has been doing, what he has done for the world, for UK, for Turkey. Can you please introduce yourself briefly?
Well, yes, I'm Graham Sharp, born in Glasgow, so I am Scottish. So just get that fixed. Scottish, not English, right? So but I do live in England now, Nottinghamshire. So my career was mainly I did sciences at school, and a mechanical engineer university and business studies. I joined British Ropes as a management trainee, but I had to spend 3 years on the shop floor learning the products before they let me loose. So 3 years working on the shop floor, which was a wonder. It was the best experience I could have because I learned how to communicate with people from the shop floor up to the director level. After that, I became a production engineer, but gradually moved over onto the more technical aspects of the rope designs. And in fact, I designed the cables that are holding up the Bosphorus Bridge.
You did?
Yeah, yeah. And the Dartford Crossing in London, Severn Bridge, the Singmar Bridge in Hong Kong. So I was involved with all ropes, and but eventually, and quality assurance. I went into quality assurance, and then into what we called customer service, which was to support clients around the world in selecting rope for mainly the oil and gas industry. So, I spent a lot of time in the Middle East because of all the oil and gas, and I used to advise on lifting the oil rig modules. There were 8,000 tons lifts, so I would there to supervise.
How many thousand tons?
8,000 ton lifts.
Wow.
So I was so it was quite a tricky operation. While I was in the Middle East, and that meant from Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Oman, Qatar, UAE, Jordan. So the focus was in the oil and gas, but there was a product there that was a wire rope system. It was an old two-rope system designed by the UK, mainly for areas where you've got a lot of snow and sand. It was not generally used, but from my experience looking at the system there and monitoring its performance, I thought, well, this is a good system. The only problem with the two-rope system was on the dynamic deflection. It was wide. But at that time, in around the world, and this is a true fact, economic fact, life was cheap.
Yes, right.
And on the roads, on the freeways in America and around Europe, there were no crash barriers.
Yeah.
Because it was cheaper to allow the person, we're only numbers.
Yeah, and also the traffic wasn't this busy that time. It
That's
wasn't.
correct. Yeah, the volume wasn't there. There
Yeah.
weren't so many trucks on the road.
Yeah.
A lot of freight was shipped or on rail. So crash barriers, there weren't a lot of crossover type accidents.
Right.
But in the mid 80s, while I was in the Middle East, there was a move towards, well, life was becoming more valued.
Yeah.
And we had to try and save lives.
Yes.
And so there was a big European push to develop crash barriers to a European standard.
Mm-hmm.
And in the UK, the same, because at that time we were part of Europe.
Right.
And I saw an opportunity to develop a system that had a lower deflection that was suited to the what we call the median of the motorway highway. That's the median strip.
Yeah.
And so I proposed that I designed a system that would be a wire rope system. The benefit of a wire rope system is on the impact
Right.
of the vehicle, the ropes will stretch, and that means that the occupant severity of the impact, what we call the theoretical head impact velocity, that's what happens to your brain. When you hit an object, it's the damage to the brain and the heart due to the impact severity that kills you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not all the blood and guts.
Right.
It's the damage to the brain and your heart, because the shock waves can destroy the heart valves and the brain. So anyway, I was the only one that was looking at wire rope, and in the we did a lot of crash testing at Myra, where you came with the Turkish ministers.
Yes.
And we did a lot of, you have to fire vehicles at these crash barriers.
Yeah.
At a certain angle, certain speed, at a certain weight, depending on the containment level you want. Mm-hmm. And in the late 80s, we got the European approval. We tested at Myra, but so UK is an island. Yes. And the rest of Europe, there's a bit of we're not the same.
Yes, I know.
So from a point of view of being accepted in Europe, I decided that we also had to test in mainland Europe. Mm-hmm. So I tested at Inrets in France. Mm-hmm. And we got the approval. So we had the UK approval and French approval. Excellent. And that was the start of the journey. And so what I did.
So when was that, the approval in Europe?
1989. It took 5 years of development. It's not, it might look a simple system.
No, it isn't.
A steel post with ropes on top.
It's lifesaver.
It's lifesaver, and it's got to be tested and tested and tested with different vehicles. But really the real test is when it performs on the highways.
Right.
And that was something that we were, I was nervous about, because it's all right testing in a laboratory. Yeah. But what happens in the real road when you've got drivers who are driving it at 100 miles an hour?
All trucks, big trucks, heavy trucks.
Big trucks. The impact angle is 90 degrees, not 20 degrees. So how was that going to perform? Anyway, that was going to, time will tell, but I was convinced.
You were really pioneer on this, and I know you spent many years for development, approval, for traveling all over the world, Middle East and Europe, and even United States of America.
Well, that was another thing, Bashir. there was no harmonization of standards between the US and Europe, although they were trying. So in Europe, the standard is EN 1317. In America, it's NCHRP 350, or now MASH, as they call it.
Yeah.
So America was a big potential market as well. So I then decided also we had to go to TTI, that's the Texas Transportation Institution.
When was that? Which year was that? When
It started in about 1994.
Yeah,
testing
just
to the US.
After we met with you, I think.
Yeah, well, that was what I was going to say. So to get the message out, you know, we got the approval, but unless we went out and told the story, nobody was going to know about it. So how do we do it? Well, we've got to do presentations to engineers, presentations to governments, because to get approval, it's not a question of a barrier is specified on a contract and I can say, oh, you can use ours. No, as we found, as you know, in Turkey, we had to convince the government in Turkey that the system was approved, and they asked the technical questions. It wasn't, they wouldn't just accept that it was approved. They had to be convinced. So we spent a lot of time in Istanbul with the municipality, and you took me up and down that lovely drive to Ankara.
Yes. We went to Turkish.
I remember it well. I remember when we got one visit to you. I remember when you picked us up from the airport in your big black passenger carrier. The next day you were picking us up from the hotel, or your driver was, and we were standing waiting on the executive van, and this black van turns up, and it was Mr. Graham. So we got in this van, and it was the wrong one.
The wrong one. I remember. Yeah, I remember.
We got in the wrong, and we ended up in the car park. I thought, what the hell's happening? And the driver said, this is the office up. I said, this isn't the office. And he said, Mr. Graham. I said, yeah, Graham Sharp. No, it's Mr. Graham.
I know.
I said, we're in the wrong one.
Yeah, I remember.
Anyway, that was one of the stories in Ankara, but and we've got many stories together.
Yeah.
But I started the testing in the US in 1994 at TTI in College Station in Texas, and with the federal government also involved. But yes, I was the pioneer of the wire rope. Nobody else was using wire rope systems. All the major manufacturers were guardrails. And they saw me as a bit of a joke.
Yeah,
wire rope.
You were persistent, and you believe in your product, and you wanted to make a difference in the people's life, because every year I don't know how many million lives are lost due to the traffic accidents, especially crash barriers like New Jersey barriers made of concrete, or guardrails made of rigid steels. And I think you and I did big change in, at least as far as I know, in Turkey. I remember when we met in Amsterdam. It was
that's right. So as I was going to say, so how do I get the message out? Well, I contacted consulting engineers. I would go to their offices and do a product presentation. They would ask questions, and gradually people thought, well, that looks good, because it's not just, yes, you're dead right. My passion is safety, saving lives. Commercially, yes, there's got to be profits involved, but that wasn't my main driver. I could see this was going to save lives, and that's why I was so persistent, passionate, patient, because it takes a long time to convince engineers to change. And it's a risk. It's a risk for them as well to change from the standard product to this new product, and they've got no experience of that product. So it takes time and patience and persistence. And
I
So
think
exhibitions
definitely.
were another, transport traffics exhibitions were another way of showing the product. And I used to go to the Traffics Amsterdam, and I think it was 1992
Yes, when I met you, it was
when
in
this foreign guy turns up on the stand, very smart and very important looking. And we got talking, and you said to me, well, I think there's an opportunity in Turkey because we have a lot of road fatalities. And
I remember very well. You were sitting in your booth on your stand, and you had this TV, and that TV had the yellow, very bright yellow rover
yeah,
coming and hitting to the fences and going back to the road again. And while I was walking, it grabbed my attention, and I said, "How could that happen? A car that fast hitting to the barriers, and then nothing really happens and still goes on the road." And I was watching that. It's very, I was very like interested in it. I remember you came to me, walked by, and said, "It's interesting, isn't it?" I said, "Very much so." You said, "You want to get some information about it?" I said, "Why not?" And you invited me to the booth. We sit down, and I think it was 1992 March into traffic in Amsterdam. And that day, I had flown from London to Amsterdam in the morning just to visit Intertraffic. I had an appointment with a parking meter company from United States, and after I had that meeting with
so you
Clark
had no intention of looking at crash barriers.
exactly, no, but your stand with your TV with that show on the TV running same thing. It was very fascinated. It was very fascinating for me. I was really fascinated, and maybe I wanted to make a change in Turkey. My father died due to the traffic accident a couple years
Did it?
ago.
I
Back
didn't know that.
yeah, my father died like in 1988 due to the traffic accident. It wasn't the crash barriers, but at the end of the day, it was a traffic accident. And I think I had little sentimental approach to traffic and accidents and lost
Well,
time.
it was painful for you.
Sure. And when I saw
And
that thing, I said, "Gosh, I can make a difference in my country with these barriers." I remember reading on the papers the youngsters coming back from a dinner party had thrown to the Bosphorus because there wasn't any barrier in front of the Strait of Bosphorus. I said, "I can
yeah,
make a difference."
yeah, I
Maybe
remember that.
that we had.
So I remember you saying after we had the chat, will you come to Turkey? I
Yes.
like your product. I'll support you. I'll organize it. Come to Turkey and do your presentation. And I think we can save Turkish lives.
Yes, exactly. And we
And
did.
that's what we did. And it was that was the beginning of the journey. But it was not just a business relationship, Bashir. I think it was friendship as well.
Definitely. Yeah, we
And
became
and that helps a lot.
yeah. I used to go to Doncaster where you had the
Yeah,
factory. And
yeah,
also, I took some people to Doncaster from Turkish Standards Institution. We got the certification from your factory. I mean, yeah, we became like a big family. And we used to come to Turkey quite often. I used to travel to UK, and it was like we used to have dinners, and we had an excellent dinner, and we used to go to pubs and everything. Yeah, we became friends. And look at us now, 29 years later, right? 29 years
yeah.
later now,
Still in
we are
contact.
doing this talk. It's amazing, isn't it?
Well, that proves what true friends are when it lasts for a lifetime,
Yes, it is. It
even
is.
if there is years between the meetings.
Yes. And now
It's
we don't do, you and I don't do any business. We don't have any
no.
relationship. Just we are friends. And by the way, this is the book that you wrote up for me. Okay.
Yes, I'm taking classes in Turkish.
Well, I'm going to save you some time. My daughter now is coming from United States next month, and she will start translating into English. And I promise you, you will get the first copy out of the press once it's translated to English. And you'll have your write up here on page 105. It's in English, the original one, and then underneath is a Turkish translation. I really appreciate your input on this book. This book came out.
No, no. I mean, you have worked very hard. I know you. I am not in the same league as you, Bashir, because you are you're a very, very tough, although you're a very friendly guy to me, but you've got to be, you're also a tough businessman, or you wouldn't be in the position you are.
Persistence, Graham, persistence pays. I mean, you need to really go after your dreams, and you have to really work hard.
Absolutely.
And I say, if you want to do something, you should believe in it, and you work for it, you get it. That's for sure. I mean, look at us. You and I worked like from 1992 to 1993, 1 year, and then we did our first installment in Istanbul on E5, European 5 highway. And then remember, the wire rope was loaded to the plane from London, flew into Istanbul, and you said, "Wow, wire rope safety fence is flying now." It was Turkey. If you remember this, it was a car race in Istanbul. And
the rallying, yes.
Yes, we did the installation on the phone. I was talking to you on the phone maybe 2-3 hours a day, and you were giving me directions. So, I mean, we did excellent things together. We did great things. And then we really saved lots of lives in Bosphorus Straits. And now, if you look at in Istanbul mainly, all over Turkey, you see wire rope safety fence. And it's aesthetically excellent. It's a lifesaver. And it's a very modern, it's like a street furniture. At the end of the day, barriers are street furniture, right?
It's unobtrusive.
Yeah. So,
but you've got to be, I would say, I'm a fairly humble guy. I don't do it for my own glory and promotion. I want all the promotion and attention on the product. Excellent. Not me. Whereas other companies now that are basically a lot of guardrail companies and other companies, as wire rope started to get accepted more and more in each country, because you don't get worldwide approval or even European approval, doesn't mean to say that because France uses it, Germany won't use it. They just won't use it.
Why don't they use it?
Because they manufacture, they're looking after their own manufacture. It gets very political, Bashir. It does. And I mean, I find it difficult supplying into Western Europe, because it's not made in France. It's made in Britain. We don't buy British, And that's a bit of the problem we had in America in a way. And the first installation I remember was in Oklahoma on I-35, when I got a phone call from a guy, worked for the Federal Highways, but he'd been based in Saudi Arabia. He was an advisor to the Saudi Arabian Ministry of Communications. They are the highway people. And so he had seen the wire rope in Saudi Arabia, and he was actually based in Oklahoma City. Okay. His office was in the building that got blown up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was out the office the day the bomb went off. He came back to the office, and all his colleagues had been killed.
Yeah, wow.
So he did take me to the memorial garden, to which was very sad. But they had a problem on I-35, Lake Hefner Parkway in Oklahoma, where there was no median barrier, and they had occasional crossover accidents. Mm-hmm. But as happens in life, it's only when somebody important gets killed, you get the attention. And this senator's family got killed, a crossover accident on I-35. So there was panic stations to put barriers up. And this guy, Jerry Emerson, who was the federal highway guy for Oklahoma, it had to be approved by him, what system. And he said, oh, I remember seeing a wire rope system in Saudi Arabia. We should look at that, because it was an excellent system. Excellent. So he phoned Washington Federal Highways office and said, have we anything about wire rope systems, And the guy, the head in Washington, I can't remember his name now, good friend of mine, I can't remember his name. Oh, he said, oh yeah, there's a Graham Sharp in the UK he's doing some testing in America.
Okay.
Oh, have you got his phone number? So I got a call from Jerry Emerson saying, "Hi, Graham. I've seen your barriers in Saudi. Yeah.
That's great.
I've got a problem in Oklahoma on a highway. I think your system could be used. I'm suitable. Can you come over and talk to us about it?"
Okay.
And if you don't take opportunities, Bashir,
Sure.
if you don't, my motto is, if you don't go, you won't know.
Definitely.
So I said, yeah, set up a meeting with the DOT
Mhm.
in Oklahoma City,
Mhm.
and I'll come across and I'll do a presentation, technical presentation, not a sales pitch,
Yeah.
technical presentation to the engineers. So I jumped on the next plane and appeared in Oklahoma City DOT's offices, set up at that time it was slides.
Yes, I remember.
I mean, this PowerPoint and this zoomy stuff.
Very new for us. I know.
I mean, I don't know how they could have done what we did
Yes, exactly. With
without
this
all this
one by
technical
one
stuff.
go.
We did it the hard way.
Yeah, we did hard way. I know.
I remember texts. I remember
Presentation.
texts and fax machines and faxes and
Yes.
anyway. So I did my presentation and I gave them the stuff, and it was a very high public profile thing. And of course, after I left, the DOT did what I said. Look, I'll provide a sample free of charge on the highway just to show that you're doing something. You've got to be seen to be doing something. No, they didn't. They did nothing until they had the next crossover fatal accident. And then the press got, what the hell's happened? A year or two ago, this Scotsman came across and said he got, and nothing happened. What's happening? And he said, "Oh yes, we're thinking," and he pulled my brochures out the desk, the head of the DOT, and he said, "Well, yeah, we're considering, yes." So I got a call to say, "Graham, we need the sample. We've got to do something." I said, "Right, you get the contractor, and I'll choose the contractor. Give me a list of contractors. Yes. We'll pay for the installation if we have to."
How big was the installation?
It was about 1,000 feet, 300 meters. That was the whole installation was 22 kilometers.
Okay, nice.
But they weren't sure about paying for 22 kilometers straight away. Mm-hmm. So
understandable.
So I found a contractor who said, "Well, if you're going to supply it free of charge as a Scotsman, you are a bit mean. So we'll pay for the installation." I said, excellent. Right, okay. And it was a company called Mid-State Traffic Control, Steve Wells, and he's also a good friend because we've got anyway. Send the materials across, and I fly over to supervise the installation. And it was funny, Bashir, because it was on a dead straight section.
Okay,
and I said, "Is this where the accidents happen?" Because my experience says highway accidents occur where traffic is on slip roads, on junctions where because a vehicle coming down a slip road might just go straight onto the highway.
Okay.
And then disturb the traffic, just swerving it. And I said, "So where did the accident happen?" Oh, it was up at that junction interchange. I said, "Well, why haven't you put it there?" "Oh, somebody might hit it." That's the whole point. That's the whole point.
Amazing.
So anyway, but the TV crews came out and they photographed it, and this is it, and this is me, and the headlines in the Oklahoma State newspaper was "Scotsman has solution for road safety in America."
Excellent.
But nothing happened. So the sample was there, and then one day somebody hit it, and it worked perfectly.
Excellent.
And then but there was a Buy America policy, so it had to be made in America. But because of the urgency, the government, the Federal Highways, wrote a dispensation that on this occasion, materials, because of the urgency, could be supplied from the UK.
Okay.
So
Excellent.
we supplied the 22 kilometers, but since then, it's manufactured under license in America,
In the United States.
in the United States. And now it's the most, other Trinity Steel, which were the big guardrail manufacturer, as one of their operations, they were fighting me like hell to try and discredit me, this wire rope, it doesn't look strong enough. But it worked, and it saved lives, and guardrail didn't work that well. It was
Rails are usually killing people. That's my observation.
yeah, the impact severity is far greater, and because the guardrail is jointed,
Yes.
if the quality control is not excellent on site, the joints might not be bolted properly. We don't have joints on the rope system. It's continuous. You cannot break the ropes. Even with a 38, 40-ton truck, you'll not break the ropes.
Can you correct me if I am mistaken? The ropes that we were using for Bryphon was originally arrest ropes for the fighter planes landing on the warships, right?
Oh, yes, not exactly the same size. They were 22. The rope on our system, Bashir, is 19 millimeters in diameter.
Okay.
A 3x7 construction, large outer wires, so that it's abrasion resistant.
Right.
In the navies, with the aircraft carriers,
yes,
the original way of arresting the landing jets was using a wire rope sling across the deck that the jet caught, and the ropes would allow the vehicle to be arrested softly.
Yes. How thick was that rope?
Not 22 mil, just a bit bigger.
Ours was 19.
Yeah.
But the idea, I think, came from.
It's on the video. I thought.
Yeah, I did translate.
If it can stop a Buccaneer aircraft at 200 miles an hour.
Yeah, I know it was an intro video, and I had translated into that Turkish myself, into Turkish. So when we were doing presentation,
imagine what would happen if guardrail was across the deck of the aircraft carrier.
Yeah, exactly.
Would it stop a jet landing at 200 miles an hour?
Yes.
I don't think so. And that's the problem with guardrail. It can break.
It can break. Because
and the other problem, the guardrail, if it breaks, the guardrail can actually penetrate through the vehicle.
Right.
I think you've shown me photographs in Turkey.
I have those photographs still. They become like a weapon eventually. It goes into the driver.
Yeah, they spear the guardrail can cut straight through the engine and kill the people.
Yeah, when you say, like, when you were talking about politics are involved in Western Europe, I remember also something very well. Also, I mentioned about this in my book. When I met with you in Amsterdam, I visited Doncaster, the factory, Bryden Ropes, and obviously it's going to be taking lots of time to convince the politicians, decision makers, contractors. We have to do some PR, public relations, and things like that. And you had introduced me with David Sharp.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes.
The idea was very interesting. I mentioned about that in the book because it's going to be a long run. It's like a marathon. We have to spend lots of time and money to get this wire rope safety fence in the system in Turkey. You said, why don't you start selling some crane ropes? And David Sharp was in charge of the crane ropes.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. And actually, I like that idea. It's a great approach. It's a great business decision. So we are trying to push the wire rope safety fence. We're spending money, spending time. We don't have income coming in from that. But on the other hand, Bryden Ropes has an excellent manufacturing facility. We are selling wire rope for heavy lifting cranes like Liebherr or these big, like 300, 400 tons cranes. And I like that idea so much. I said, we are supporting a distributor with selling ropes for cranes. On the other hand, you guys usually come to Turkey, do presentation in Ankara, in Istanbul. So, we don't get, we don't feel like.
That's the problem this year, because the time it takes. I remember, because of the articles that were appearing in Civil Engineer, Surveyor magazines that have worldwide circulations, because let's face it, an engineer is an engineer, no matter the culture, the part of the world they're from. They all learn engineering is standard.
Right.
It's the standard calculations for whatever building. It's the same regulations, really, the same civil structural engineering. All engineers think the same.
Yeah.
And so they were all. I remember the article I did in Civil Engineer, which was read around the world, and there was a reader reply service, and I got a reader reply from Australia, from this guy called Paul Hansen, and he was a chartered engineer, resident engineer, working for the Road Traffic Authority in Sydney.
Okay.
And he actually, his family had a small rope, not manufacturing but distribution company. So his traffic engineering and wire rope seemed to click. And in Australia, they didn't have crash barriers. They had the same in what we had in Europe. We had the roads with the median but no barriers, and that was in Australia. So we started exchanging emails and stuff. Well, it was faxes then.
Faxes.
And eventually I said to Paul, we can exchange faxes for all our lives, but we've got to do something to make it happen. So if you can arrange presentations, I'll come to Australia and I'll tell the engineers, and they can quite. So the first meeting was in Perth,
Australia.
Western Australia, and I remember flying out economy class.
Wow.
Back of a plane, 26 hours.
Whew.
I did a lot of air travel. I was doing 200,000 miles a year flying.
How many countries you have been into? How many countries you have visited?
Well, it's over 50.
That's it.
And that's not what is that. Mainly the countries are Scandinavia, all the Scandinavia countries, Iceland, the European countries, Russia, Romania, Slovakia, Czech Republic, Estonia, then moving a bit south into Turkey, the Middle Eastern countries, including Israel,
Malaysia,
Algeria, Morocco, and then into India, Pakistan, China. Stop me if I'm boring you.
What are you doing nowadays? What are you involved with in terms of?
Well, the other thing about any system is that it won't just last forever. You can't ignore it. You've got to inspect it.
Yeah.
So, and you're really looking for areas of damage that hasn't been repaired. Any vandalism that might have taken place. People, because steel is a scrap value, so you find that sometimes it's missing.
Sure.
And a lot of governments or transport departments, they basically are more interested in designing bridges and the tarmac, there's road surfaces and things like that. The crash barrier basically becomes ignored.
I see.
Because and the grass grows over the top of it, it disappears, and so, but it's still there to save lives.
Definitely.
So it's got to be inspected properly, not just drive past it. You've got to stop and examine it inch by inch to check it. So that's we're working with Highways England and Transport Scotland. Because barriers have been ignored and people are now starting to go, not the wire rope, but the guardrails. I mean, they corrode, they don't last as long as wire rope because they're a lot thinner and they're jointed. So there's a lot more stress has been developed over the years, and that causes cracking.
Sure.
And you've got to be detailed in your inspections to determine the cracking and stuff. So we are now qualified crash barrier inspectors.
I see. So
A lot of the barriers have been installed around, it's only on new roads now, but there are still areas like India, South America, Argentina, Panama, developing countries are still, Africa is, unfortunately, they don't spend the money. The wealth in Africa is not spent on the people. And I've been to South Africa, and it's people's lives really don't matter.
Yeah, they don't care about people's life, right?
In Africa, I'm afraid, and in India and Pakistan and parts. So, to me, a human being is a human being, and we all deserve to be saved. I think it's a worldwide commitment, not just country by country. There should be an international, like this vaccine. Everybody's life matters.
Yes, I think every year over 1.5 million people get killed due to traffic accidents worldwide, which is a quite high amount of number. And I know that by coronavirus, by COVID-19, there were more than 2 million lives lost. And if you look at the traffic accidents, 1.5 million lives is many lives. And of course, when you look at this as a figure, 1.5 million may not make any difference. But if you have some loved one lost due to the traffic accident, that makes a big effect. And being part of this project, the barriers, traffic engineering, traffic safety, it's, I think, very valuable. I'm proud of this, that I have done this to Turkey with your help, of course.
How many lives? I mean, the best reward to me was a few years ago, an exhibition in Sweden, and we supplied a lot of the barrier, the Bryfen system into Sweden, and we don't get a lot of feedback on accidents because it tends to be confidential. They don't want to admit, the police or the governments of what actually happened or anything. So there's not a lot of statistics to us. But I remember standing on the stand in Gothenburg, and this guy comes up to me and starts shaking my hand.
Okay.
And he said, "You saved my life." I said, "Pardon?" He said, "I hit your system. I hit your system. And if it hadn't been for your system, it was so soft. I was driving too fast. I blew a tire. And I thought I was gonna, because I was heading towards the other, and this wire rope just caught me and guided me, and basically I could have driven off."
Wow. Amazing.
I don't think that would have happened with so I just want to thank you, and that was more, that meant more to me than
It does.
Yes. How many other lives have we saved, Bashir?
I had the similar experience what you had in Gothenburg in Sweden, by the Bosphorus Straits. We did installation in 1999. You remember very well. And one day, one of the major newspapers, I don't want to mention the name here, but it's the largest newspaper in Turkey. The finance manager or CFO of the newspaper had gone to dinner with his family, and on the way back home, the car was out of control, and the car was held by the wire rope safety fence. And he had the picture taken. It was on the cover page of the newspaper, and this wire rope safety fence saved my family's life, husband and wife and 2 children at the back seat. And then next day, I don't know how the guy found us, gave me a call through the office. He said, "I am this guy. I had an accident yesterday. You guys, I heard that you guys said install this. It's a British product." I said, yes. He said, if they were not built there, we would not be alive today. The car goes into the Bosphorus.
Phosphorus.
Yeah. So it's an amazing thing. It's not the money. It's not.
I do miss, at the moment anyway, missing meetings. You know, I Zoom, yes, but I'd rather be face to face around the table with the production team doing this. I'd like to be talking to them
Face to face.
face to face. I'd
I
like
know.
to get on Turkish Airlines
I know.
to Istanbul and do this face to face.
Hopefully we will do that soon, Grant. Hopefully we will do that soon. And I really appreciate your time. Now you are in UK, I'm in Turkey, and technology is such an amazing thing. We did this Zoom meeting with
Well,
you. So thank you very much for your time and for the information that you shared.
I've enjoyed
with
it,
us
Bashir. I've
today.
enjoyed the chat.
It's well, our show is ending now, unfortunately. Thank you for watching us. Please follow us and be sure you are subscribed to our channel, and stay tuned to see in our new episodes. We are going to having lots of new guests, and please enjoy the day and take care. Bye-bye.